We're back at Capital Casino for the 1-3 match stack game and buy in for our usual $500 stack. The action gets started right away in the local famous Capital Casino $15 bomb pot. 7 people join the party, so there's $100 in the pot after the drop, and we get dealt King 8 of spades. We go straight to a flop of 9-4 deuce with 2 spades, flopping the second nut flush draw. 3 people check it over to me, and I could go either way between betting or checking, but I usually default to the passive route at the start of the day to get a feel for the table. So I check, and now the player to my left bets $55. Folds all the way back to the player to my right, who puts in the call. I don't think there's anything to do other than call, so I put in the chips, and we go 3 ways to a turn with $265 in the middle and see the 10 of clubs. We check and flow to the aggressor, who continues betting for $115. Guy to my right puts in the call again, and even though I'm getting a pretty good price to continue, I gotta be worried about one of them having the nut flush draw given the action, so I toss my hand in the muck. The river comes out the jack of diamonds, and the action goes check, check. Guy to my right shows 7-8 offsuit with no spade and wins this massive pot after going runner straight. Only reason I showed this hand was to give you guys an idea of the type of action you're about to see. So I'm going to need to lock it the hell in and get ready to battle today. I add on $200 to my stack to get some more chips on the table, so after just one hand, we're already into the game for $700. After going card dead for a full orbit, we get a seat change to get the best view for the vlog, and we're back for another bomb pot. 8 people decided to join the party this time, and we get dealt ace-jack offsuit. With $115 in the middle, the flop comes out ace-6-3 rainbow, giving us top pair with a decent kicker. Early position now leads out for a small bet of $31. The cutoff puts in the call, and since our opponents could have any 2 cards on such a dry board, I decided to play it safe and put the call in position. Both the blinds call as well, so we're going 5 ways to a turn, not knowing where the hell we stand. The turn comes out the king of diamonds, putting 2 diamonds on the board, and the action gets checked all the way to me. Sitting here with a decent top pair, I guess I could be throwing in a value bet, but honestly, still not feeling too confident that we have the best hand, so I decided to check it back. So with $270 still in the pot, the river comes out the jack of diamonds, giving us 2 pair but bringing in the backdoor flush. Once again, the action gets checked all the way to me, and now I have a mandatory value bet. I decided to go super small and target a weak ace with the quarter-sized pot bet of $70, but one by one, they all fold and we scoop in our first pot of the day.
Thank you.
We're already up $100 on the day, and we get dealt pocket 10s in the small blind. The low jack, who's been playing a lot of hands, opens the action to $15, and now the hijack puts in the call. I'm definitely ahead of most of his opening range, so I put in the 3-bet to $70. Both players decide to put in the chips, which I was definitely not surprised with because this is the Capital Casino, home of the most action in the Sacramento Valley. So with $210 in the middle, we're going 3 ways out of position to a king-6 deuce all spades flop. I do have the 10 of spades in my hand, so I could start off with a bet, but since we're multi-way, I decided to check and see what happens. The original raiser checks as well, but now the hijack bets $100. With a player left to act, this should probably be a fold, but my life thoughts were if a spade or 10 hits on the turn, then I could check to see what ensues, and if it gets checked around, I'm almost guaranteed to have the best hand. So I stick in $100, and the other guy gets out of the way. So with $410 in the pot, the turn comes out the deuce of hearts. I check and flow, and now the hijack continues the aggression for $250. I just snap fold so I can live to see another day, but I'm honestly curious about your guys' thoughts in this spot. Should I c-bet the flop, check fold, or check call? Let me know in the comments how you guys would have played it. After that hand, we're down about $200 now, but we still have plenty of time to grind it out. For this current hand, the $12 straddle is on, so the blinds are 1, 3, 12, and we look down at the best hand ever created, which is none other than the Bullets pocket aces. We're first to act, and I open them up to $35. We get action from an early position player in the big blind and straddler. So we're going 4 ways to a flop with $140 already in the middle, and the flop comes out king, queen, deuce with 2 spades. I throw out a half pot value bet of $65 with my overpair, and now an early position player raises to $150. I don't have much history with this player, but I think given all the strength I showed with an under the gun open and a c-bet on the flop, he shouldn't be getting too out of line. The value hands that have me beat is king, queen, and pocket deuces, since I would assume kings or queens would 3-bet pre-flop. But the hands I'm beating are all the flush and straight draws like jack 10 and ace queen of spades. So when it gets folded back to me, I decide to put in the call, but we are treading very lightly. So with $440 in the pot, the turn comes out the king of hearts pairing the top card. I actually like this card because it reduces the chances of him having a king. So I check and flow, and our opponent does something I definitely wasn't expecting and jams all in. My initial thought was that I think we could take king queen out of the picture because I don't think he'd want to scare any of my holdings away sitting with the nuts in position. So then I thought about what he would do with all his semi-bluffs like ace queen of spades, ace 10 of spades, and some straight draws like jack 10 suited. I figured all those hands would probably want to see a free turn card since the king should be way better for our range, and if he jammed, it would reduce the likelihood of his fold equity. So after coming to that realization, I do something that all of you hate, and I exploitatively toss my pocket aces in the muck. But don't worry because we finally get a reveal. Our opponent chose ace king of diamonds for the 2-outer on the turn, and our exploitative fold turned out to be the right play. So even though we made the correct fold last hand, we are unfortunately stuck piles right now. The $6 straddle is on, and the same player from last hand limps first to act. Folds all the way to the small blind to my right, who puts in the call, and I look down at pocket tens for the second time today and raise them up to $35. The under the gun limper calls, and so does the small blind, so with $110 in the pot, the flop comes out 9-6 deuce with 2 hearts, giving us an overpair. Small blind checks and flow, and there's not too many cards in the deck that I want to see, so I throw out a $65 value bet, and the under the gun player gets out of the way. But now the small blind check raises all in for about $210. I take about 5 milliseconds before snap calling and turn over my hand like I always do when I'm all in. Turn comes out the 7 of diamonds, and the river is the 3 of spades. Our opponent takes a while to look at the board, but eventually tosses his hand in the muck after showing ace 5 of hearts. No need to add on chips now because we basically get the full double up.
I think it's safe to say that our luck has officially turned around, guys. We are back, baby. We are fucking back!
We're back for another bomb pot, and 7 people joined the party, so that means there's $100 in the pot after the drop. I get dealt king 9 offsuit, and the flop comes out 8-7 deuce with 2 diamonds, and the action gets checked through. The turn comes out the 6 of spades, giving us an open-ended straight draw, and when action gets checked to me again, I try to steal it and throw out a $45 bet. And one by one, everyone tosses their hands in the muck, and I honestly think for the first time ever, we get a bluff through in a bomb pot.
Out of 6. I didn't like it.
Things seem to be trending in the right direction, and we're almost back at the even mark. I put on the $6 straddle to keep the action going, and the cutoff opens to $30. He hasn't open raised too many hands, so I think he has a pretty decent holding. It folds to me, and for the second time today, I look down at the best hand ever created, which is none other than the bullets, pocket aces. We're about $500 effective, so I throw in the 3-bet to $100 even, and our opponent wastes no time before sticking in the call. So we're going heads up out of position in a 3-bet pot with a monster holding. No complaints here, especially when the flop comes out 4-4 deuce rainbow. I could bet small to allow him to float with his bad hands, but I honestly want to get value from his pairs just in case a scare card comes on the turn. So I stick with the same bet and throw out another $100. Quickly puts in the call, so the pot has ballooned to $400, and the turn is exactly what we didn't want to see, and the king of diamonds putting 2 diamonds on the board. I'm not worried about this card in the sense that I now have the losing hand, but a lot of low stakes players put you on ace king when you put in a 3-bet. So I figured our opponent would fold out all his weaker pairs if I bet, so I decided to start off with a check since I think I could only get 2 streets of value now. I was expecting a check back from our opponent, but now he surprisingly bets out for $165. My live read was that he might have ace-king himself, or since I don't have a diamond in my hand, he could have floated the flop with a hand like ace-queen of diamonds and is looking to steal this massive pot with a semi-bluff. So given all that, I decided to check raise all in for his remaining $170, not wanting to see a scare card or allow him to check back a river with the king. He goes into a mini tank before eventually deciding to toss his hand in the muck. So I think he had a complete airball because all those hands should have called for that price. Maybe the best move was to check the river and let him bluff. But either way, we scoop in a massive pot to finally get us back and land a profit.
Thank you.
While we're still stacking our chips from that massive pot, we see an early position player open to $12, which has been pretty small for this game, and 2 people in middle position put in the call. I look down at ace-queen offsuit, and I definitely think a raise is in order. I throw in the squeeze to $80 on the button, and one by one, everyone folds. So right before 2 o'clock hit, which is when I always leave, we take down $40 of dead money with just ace high.
Thank you.
Now let's get to the outro. Definitely didn't seem like it was going to be a good session, but luckily we were able to win those pretty big pots with pocket 10s and pocket aces towards the end. As for results, we were into the game for $700 and out for $1,101 for a $401 profit. We try to keep the momentum going for day 2, but we've been playing for about an hour before anything exciting happens. In our first noteworthy hand of the day, an OMC in early position open raises to $25 with no straddle. Just a few hands prior, he just open limped with ace-queen offsuit from the hijack, so I'm putting him on a pretty strong starting hand. So when I look down at pocket jacks in the cutoff, I decide to just put in the call. Everyone else gets out of the way, so we're going heads up to a flop in position of 10-10 deuce rainbow. He throws in a half-pot c-bet of $25, and against some players, a protection value raise is definitely the best play, but against a tight player, I think calling is the best option. So I put in the chips, and with exactly $100 in the middle, the turn comes out to 6 of clubs. He throws in another bet of $25, which seems pretty weak, but a lot of OMCs don't ever bet big with their overpairs on a paired board. So I play it safe and just put in the call again. We go to a river, and the dealer puts out the 8 of spades, which is a pretty big blank. Our opponent doesn't slow down and throws out a triple barrel for $35. I'm never folding for this price, but I go into a mini tank and wonder if I should turn my hand into a bluff. I come to the realization that if I had a 10, my line would make 0 cents after just calling the turn, so I stick in the call, not expecting to be good too often, but our opponent turns over ace-king offsuit for just ace high. I don't really know if he was trying to bluff for under a quarter-size pot bet, but no complaints here as we scoop in our first pot of the day.
Thank you.
Over the next 40 minutes, we lose a few small pots and our stack has dropped below the even mark. In this hand, we look down at ace-jack offsuit and open up the action to $17. The player in middle position puts in the call, and so does the button. We go to a flop 3 ways of ace-king 10 with 2 spades, giving us top pair and a gut shot to Broadway. It's a pretty connected board that definitely favors our range, so I start off with a bet of $25 and just the button sticks in the call. He's been playing a pretty wide range this session, so all the flush draws are in play, and he's also been caught bluffing a few times, which will come into play later in this hand. So we go heads up to a turn, and the dealer throws out the 8 of diamonds, putting 2 flush draws on the board. I don't think there's any other option than to bet, so we don't allow our opponent to see a free turn card in position. So I throw out $65 in chips, and our opponent wastes no time before calling once again. I figured a lot of his queen jack and jack 10 holdings would fold after this bet, so I mainly put him on a weak ace or some type of flush draw. So given all that, we go to a river and it comes out the jack of hearts, giving us 2 pair but putting a one-liner to the straight. I decided to start off with a check, and our opponent overbets the pot and jams all in for $250. I go deep into the tank to try to figure this one out. My initial thought on narrowing down his range is why would he want to jam if he made it straight, because how is he expecting to get called by worse with a one-liner to Broadway? I also figured he's been playing plenty of suited stuff that bricked out completely, and their only option at winning this pot is to try and bluff all in. So I come to the conclusion that he has more bluffs than value hands, so I stick in the call, and our opponent turns over ace-queen offsuit for the straight. Wasn't expecting him to turn over that specific holding because I thought he'd 3-bet that in position. But we get owned and make the wrong hero call. Usually when I'm in a tough spot, I message my Discord on their thoughts, and I got some solid responses from my man Chris in the Croatian Haitian. I think their advice of throwing out a block sizing of about $55 to get called by worse 2-pair and then folding to a raise would have been the perfect play. So I'm always glad for extra input and improving my game, so if anyone wants to join the Discord, hit the link in the description below. I had on $500 after almost getting stacked, and now I'm into the game for an even 1,000. While I'm still getting my chips situated, the $6 straddle is on and an early position player limps. The cutoff now raises to $30, and the big blind jams all in for 107. I look down at ace-king offsuit and say screw it and shove my stack in the middle for about $600 looking to isolate this player. We accomplish just that because everyone else gets out of the way. The flop comes out queen jack 5 rainbow, turn is the deuce of hearts, and the river is the 3 of diamonds, and our opponent turns over pocket 7s, which unfortunately beats our ace high. We're getting absolutely smoked early on, and I didn't have the best mindset going on at this point, so I took a little walk to try and get my mindset back to where it needs to be. We eventually get called to the main game, so hopefully our luck can turn around. In our first hand at the main game, we pick up pocket 3s under the gun and put in a limp. 5 other people limp as well, until it folds all the way to the big blind, who is the guy we doubled up with ace-jack, and now he raises to $28. I'm looking for a little revenge and officially on a mission to get my money back, so I obviously put in the call. The button calls as well, so with $90 in the pot, the flop comes out ace-3 deuce, and we have ourselves middle set. The big blind continues the aggression for $55, and I just put in the call hoping to string the button along, but he throws his hand in the muck. So we go heads up to a turn, and it comes out the 6 of hearts, putting 2 hearts on the board. Now our opponent slows down and checks, so the hands I think he has is either complete air or a draw that's trying to see a free turn card. I throw out a little over half pot bet of $110, and our opponent folds king jack offsuit face up. So we weren't getting another dollar from him, but we get a little revenge and hopefully get a little momentum on our side. In this next hand, the $6 straddle is on, and I look down at pocket aces from under the gun and open it up to $20. Only the straddler puts in the call, who is the same player from last hand, so we're still looking to get our money back from our failed bluff catch attempt. We go heads up to a 9-4-3 2-spades flop, and when he starts off with a check, I throw in a $30 bet to get value from all his pairs and draws, and he quickly puts in the call. The turn comes out the jack of hearts, which shouldn't change too much unless he specifically had jack 9, so when he checks again, I size up and bet $80. Once again, he puts in the call, so at this point, I think he has a non-believing 9, a flush draw, or maybe 5-6 for the straight draw. The dealer throws out the worst card in the deck in the 7 of spades, bringing in the front door flush and giving 5-6 a straight. He checks for a third time, to which I was super thankful for, and I snap check it back. He turns over pocket 8s, and I turn over the winner. I definitely think we got max value in this hand, and we almost have all our money back from him. For this hand, under the gun open limps, and the same player from the last 2 hands raises to $25. I look down at pocket 5s and obviously put in the call. Everyone else gets out of the way, so we're sitting in position against public enemy number 1, and the flop comes out 10-10-5 with 2 diamonds, and we already have ourselves a full house. He throws out a $30 c-bet, and since I have this board locked up, I decided to just put in the call. With $110 in the pot, the turn comes out the 7 of spades, and our opponent continues the aggression with a $45 c-bet. I think it's time to start pumping some money in this pot, so I raise the price of poker to $95 because I want him to hang on with all his weaker pairs and draws, since I basically have him drawing dead. He wastes no time before sticking in the call, so the pot has ballooned to exactly $300, and the river comes out the 8 of clubs, which shouldn't change too much since the front door flush draw missed. He checks in flow, and now I decide on what sizing to use. I think at this point he either has a missed draw or an overpair given the action, and he has exactly $250 behind. I debate jamming, but something I've learned throughout the years is if you leave your opponent with a little left in their stack, you usually have a higher percentage of getting called because not putting someone's stack all in doesn't seem that threatening. So I still throw out a massive bet of $220, and our opponent takes a while before eventually putting in the call. I turn over our hand, and he mucks without showing. We finally get our money back and then some from that ace-jack hand. In our last hand of day 2, we're in the $6 straddle, and we're late to film because I didn't think I'd get any action with this hand. So 2 people limp to me, and I checked my straddle with 8-4 of spades. The flop came out 8-8-4 with 2 diamonds, and we flop ourselves a full house back-to-back hands. I decide to start off with a check, and next to act bets $15. Folds all the way back to me, and I just decide to put in the call. We go to a turn and see the 10 of diamonds bringing in the front door flush, and I check in flow. Our opponent makes the same bet of $15, leaving himself with only $100 behind, and I decide to just raise to $55, to which he quickly puts in the call. So I'm basically putting him on a flush or a pair and not much else. With $110 in the middle, the river is overkill and comes out the 4 of clubs. I decide to jam all in for his remaining $60, and he snap calls. I turn over our hand, and he mucks right away without showing. We finally get above the even mark and into the land of profit.
Good straddle.
Unfortunately, we lost a couple small pots after failing some set mining operations, and 2 o'clock quickly approached, which is when we always leave, so let's get to the outro. Even though we didn't make the right call with ace-jack, I'm glad we didn't get tilted and battled back to book a small win after being stuck over $500. In for $1,000 and out for $1,047 for a nice small profit of $47. As for this week in poker, we played exactly 8 hours and profited $448. I'd honestly love to see that week in and week out. Things are going super smooth this month, and we're up $1,680 already, so let's see if we can continue this run, get into next week, and finish May with a record monthly profit. As always, I hope you guys run good at the tables, and I'd appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button to help me reach my new year-end goal of 5,000 subscribers.